What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Whiteboard Finance. As you know by now, my name is Marko and I'm here to help you master your money and build your wealth. Today you can see that I'm not in front of the whiteboard and you know what time it is. It's time for another book review. So as I mentioned in my previous video when I reviewed The Richest Man in Babylon, I really want to do is actually take away the best summaries and the best ideas from these books. I don't necessarily want to ruin the story because I still want you guys to read the books. They're actually incredible reads, otherwise I wouldn't be recommending them. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is on our list today, and if you haven't read Rich Dad Poor Dad or if you haven't listened to it in audiobook form, you're definitely missing out. This book will literally change your financial perspective and potentially change your financial life. So there's a number of different lessons that I got while reading this book and listening to it again. I try to read this book once a year, just like I do Richest Man in Babylon. And these are the best lessons or takeaways that I took away from it. So if you're interested in hearing more about Rich Dad Poor Dad, stay tuned. So lesson number 1, the rich don't work for money. So the first bullet point that I took note of here is that the poor and middle class work for money and the rich let their money work for them. So the typical paradigm for the middle class is to study hard, get good grades, get a safe job with excellent benefits that you can retire from hopefully 30 or 40 years from now. Obviously that isn't the norm and that isn't the case anymore. I'm lucky enough to have family that still are working in companies that they will eventually receive a pension when they retire. But for the most part, I'd say for 90% of companies out there, they don't offer that anymore. What they do is they offer a 401k. So this creates an endless cycle of fear and greed. So what the author, Robert Kiyosaki, means by that is that most people want to feel secure with their money, so their passion doesn't direct them in their everyday lives. It's their fear of needing money to continue to be able to live. Number 2 is financial literacy. So financial literacy is not something that's taught in schools, but it's actually very simple. And this is one of the biggest takeaways that I got from Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's the difference between assets and liabilities. So the middle class, what they do is they love to work really, really hard, and they live by that motto, work hard, play hard. So they feel like at the end of the week or at the end of a successful quarter or a successful year, when they get their bonus, they want to buy something which they think is an asset, but it's not. So assets are something that put money into your pocket. So this could be rental property, this could be some sort of an investment like a mutual fund, this could be a dividend paying stock, whatever. It's as long as you own it and it's bringing money into your pocket. A liability is actually something that's taking money out of your pocket. So if you look at what the middle class usually considers to be an asset, which is a house, and technically a house is an asset. A house, you have property taxes, you typically have a mortgage, you typically have repairs, you typically have maintenance. These are all things that take money out of your pocket. And what people try and normally bank on is the appreciation or the equity or the value that they have in their home. But if you go back to 07, 08, 09, a lot of people were even underwater to the point where their mortgage was higher than what the value of the house was in the first place. So you can't always bank on equity. So the difference between assets and liabilities very quickly is that assets, again, they put money into your pocket or bring money into your pocket. Liabilities take it out. So in terms of viewing wealth, people look at net worth, and I've actually made a video about calculating your net worth. The way the author poses this is that you shouldn't look at net worth as how wealthy you are. You should look at whatever your money coming in is versus your money going out and how long you can live on that money coming in. So for a very simple example, say for example, your monthly expenses are $2,000 a month and your income is $1,000 a month. So this is very simple. How long can you live on $1,000 a month? Well, based on your expenses of $2,000, you can live for half a month. You can live for 15, 16 days. Now, if you have assets that are bringing in money every month, every quarter, every year, and they're surpassing the amount of money you need to live, well, you're financially free at that point. Because let's go back to our original example of $2,000 a month in expenses. If you have assets bringing in $3,000 a month and it costs you $2,000 a month to live, how long can you live on that? Well, forever. You actually have a surplus of $1,000 per month if everything stays equal. Lesson number 3, mind your own business. And the author, Robert Kiyosaki, he's not talking about actually minding your own business in terms of, worrying about others and personal matters and things like that. He literally means look at your life like a business. So the poor and middle class spend most of their time and energy working for other people, so a company for their paycheck, the government in taxes, and the bank, which is their mortgage, their loans, their auto loans, things like that. And it's so true when you take a step back and think about it this way. Who are you working for? Are you working for yourself, or are you working for to pay taxes, 4 months out of the year typically? Are you working for a company just for a paycheck? Are you trading your time for money, which I think is a core concept that a lot of people don't think about? So you can't confuse your profession with your business, aka your assets column. So remember, assets are things that bring money into your pocket. So you can keep your day job, but put your money in assets. So these could be stocks, bonds, mutual funds, income property, rental property, notes, intellectual property, if you come up with an idea. So once $1 is in your asset column, never take it out, because this is money that's working for you. So think of the interest and the income from that money as little employees that are working for you rather than working against you. So when you want to buy a liability, and this is actually my philosophy, first buy an asset that generates money or throws off cash every month or week or year or quarter, whatever, doesn't matter. And with those proceeds of that from that asset, and it's throwing off that cash, then you can buy whatever you want to buy. So a lot of people, actually a couple of friends of mine, what they do is they have rental properties, and one of my buddies actually takes those proceeds and just buys up other rental properties. My other buddy, he does that too, but every once in a while you see him pulling up in a new car, and that payment on the car, which I don't agree with, by the way, I pay all my cars in cash. Essentially, the payment on that car, he pays with his rental property income. So that car is being paid for by his assets, not by him. Does that make sense? Lesson 4, taxes and the power of corporations. So the rich play the game smarter in the fact that their assets are protected and their income is protected under different LLCs, different corporations. You can have an S Corp, you can have a limited liability company, you can have a number of different things. And you're therefore paying with things with before tax dollars rather than after tax dollars, which is what the middle class typically does. So think about it. If you've ever hung out with an entrepreneur or a business owner, they're always keeping the receipts and writing things off. Why do you think they do that? That's because they're paying for things with before tax dollars. So when they're writing these things off, they're getting tax breaks. They're getting into a lower tax bracket. Less of their money that they've earned is being taxed because they've already spent the before tax dollars. When you're in the middle class and you're getting a paycheck, you get your paycheck, but all that money has already been taxed. You have local tax, state tax, federal tax, all the different taxes that come out of that. And then you're paying for things with after-tax dollars. Does that make sense? So this simple rule means that if done properly, you can legally write off vacations, car expenses, health club memberships, restaurant meals, and so on. So this is all legal. This isn't, tax fraud or anything like that. But the poor earn, as I mentioned earlier, they pay taxes and then spend, while the rich earn, spend, and then pay the taxes. Number 5, the rich invent money. So there's a number of different moving parts, and I can go into 50 bullet points about this lesson. But essentially, when you boil it down, the key takeaway is that people have the ability to recognize opportunities, and even if they don't have the money right then and there, they have the financial knowledge to get creative and create their own deals. So you can assemble a deal yourself that's not necessarily a traditional investment like a 401k or a Roth IRA or mutual funds or things like that. The author is necessarily talking about how to find an opportunity that everyone else has missed, how to raise money, and how to organize smart people. So he's talking about syndicating deals and just pretty much getting in with quote unquote smart money rather than relying on traditional investments. So lesson 5 is the rich invent money. Lesson number 6, work to learn, but don't necessarily work for money. So what the author means by this is that he wants you to become kind of like a jack of all trades based on the knowledge and the experience that you get from all your jobs throughout your entire career. But what he doesn't want you to do is become a specialist, because a specialist typically translates to being an employee for the rest of your life. And when you really think about it, it makes sense. So think about a very specialized field, say for example, like a pharmacist, right? So a pharmacist went to school their entire lives to do a certain set of things or a certain set of skills, and while they're very intelligent individuals, that's pretty much all they're going to do the rest of their career. Now, coincidentally, my career has taken me into many different avenues, but I'm so much better for it because I have a wide breadth of knowledge. I don't necessarily have the degree of specialty that a pharmacist or a doctor would have, but I know a lot more about certain things than the average person would. So for example, I graduated in December of 2010 with a finance degree when the recession was pretty much at its peak. So I ultimately sold cars, okay? So I have a finance degree and I'm selling cars. I worked at a startup company after that in the tech space. So I learned about mergers and acquisitions and venture capital and how to sell a company and how to run a startup. After that, I worked in commercial real estate for 3 years, so I know a ton about leases and finance and pro formas and land acquisition and things like that. And now I'm actually working in tech. So I've covered pretty much all the biggest bases of people's lives. I worked at a death care startup, so I know about death care. I worked in real estate, which is huge. I worked in tech startups, which technology is pretty much a part of everyone's lives. And I also worked in selling cars. A car is one of the biggest purchases you're ever going to make. So I understand all these different industries pretty intricately, and I'm someone with a finance degree. So imagine if the economy was doing well when I graduated and I got pigeonholed into some big corporation and that's all I've ever known. I'd kind of be like a horse with the blinders on, right? So ultimately, work to learn, but don't work for your money. And try and learn as much as possible, but don't get pigeonholed into any one position. Does that make sense? So that completes my summary of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Again, once you master the concept of assets and liabilities and all the other lessons I talked about, your whole paradigm in your mind of finance and how to live your life is going to change. So ultimately, guys, thank you so much for watching. I actually have an affiliate link below to Amazon if you want to buy Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I get probably 3 or 4% of the sale of that book. You do the math, I probably make like 5 cents, okay? It's not the money, it's just, it shows me that people are supporting that channel, and it really means a lot to me. So if you want to support the channel, use that affiliate link. If not, no big deal. I'm doing this video because it provides massive value to you. Thank you so much and have a prosperous day.
This is a 2018 AMG Mercedes-Benz that has 600 horsepower. It does 0 to 60 in 3...
Stop it. That's a liability. Stop it. You need assets, not liabilities. But that Benz, though,